Hello there, it's Samantha. Welcome back to my channel, or if you hear hi, my name is Samantha, as I just said, and this is my channel where I talk all about books. I'm so excited to film today's video. So a couple months ago, Elena from Elena the Great posted a video. I think Elena made a video which was called like books that I was unhealthily obsessed with as a child. It was something like that. Obviously I'll link the video down below. But anyway, I remember watching that video and being like, oh, this is so sad because I don't remember what books I read when I was a kid. I could always remember like 3 books that I read when I was a kid, but I couldn't really like properly remember what books I was obsessed with, what books got me into reading, like apart from like the books that got me back into reading when I was a young teen. But I couldn't remember the ones that like really kicked off my love for reading. And I actually remember commenting like, oh, this is so sad. I can't remember what books I read when I was younger. I would love to make this video, but I can't. And so flash forward like 2 months or however long it's been. I was just watching a video from Mel, from the Bookish Mel, another person who I'm obsessed with, and she did the same thing. She was inspired by Elena to talk about the books that she loved when she was a kid. So as I said, I'll link both of their videos down below, but I was watching this and I was like, I'm so sad that I can't remember what books I read. And you know what? There's this wonderful thing called Google, and it took me all of like 5 minutes to find so many books that I remember reading when I was a kid, and I just got so excited because I love nostalgia. So I'm in a really weird, happy, nostalgic mood, and I just really want to film this video right now because I'm just so excited that I can remember what books I read. But anyway, that's enough rambling. Let's talk about these books. So I think I have 10 on my list. The reason why I really couldn't remember a lot of my books is because I actually only have one of them left. We moved when I was 11 years old. We moved countries, and so we ended up selling like a lot of my toys and my books and stuff like that in like garage sales before we moved. This is the only book that I have left since I was a kid. This is a book called My Adventures with Disney's Beauty and the Beast, and essentially this is Beauty and the Beast, and then it's got my name in it. I help Belle. Oh, this is spoilers. This is the end of the book, but do you see that? That's my name! Samantha gasped. I gasped. Essentially, I help Belle in this book. This is the only book I have left. I did have one other book, but unfortunately, like, I have a story to tell when I get to talking about that book because I now have a new copy, but I don't have my initial copy. Enough prefacing, let's talk about the books. So one book series which I remember reading when I was younger was The Little House on the Prairie books by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I read from books 1 to 7. I loved them. I was so obsessed. So odd because I love historical fiction, but I like very rarely read it. And it's so weird because even when I was younger, I loved historical fiction. I was just always obsessed with history. This book series was so helpful for me for getting into reading. My mom got it for me for maybe like my 8th or 9th birthday, and yeah, I vividly remember reading books 1 to 7, and I don't think I ever finished, and I'm so sad. I do really want to reread them, and I think they're on Scribd, so like that might be happening in the future. I loved these books. They were full of adventure. I loved them. The next book I'm going to talk about is something weird. So I vividly remember sitting in my library in my primary school, and I remember reading these books, and I don't know how many of them I read, but I know that I read this one. Anyway, it was Twelfth Night, but it wasn't actually the Shakespeare Twelfth Night, obviously. These are books that are like, they take the Shakespeare story, but they make them children's versions so that you can read them when you're a child, obviously. I remember reading at least 4 of these, and I was obsessed, but I particularly remember Twelfth Night. Like, I saw the cover and I was like, yes, I remember reading that in the library. It was just so fun, and it's really weird because I've actually only ever read 1 Shakespeare play, so I really want to read more because, like, I was obsessed with it when I was a kid. This is just something I remember very vividly. One time, we had, like, a treasure map, and you had, like, 5 stations, but you had to read, like, for half an hour to reach each station, and you got a prize if you won, and it was, like, the quickest one to get there, or maybe it was like the most hours, I don't know, but I vividly remember reading Twelfth Night and completing those things. And I remember one night going into the bathroom where we had a nightlight and reading a book by nightlight, and oh, I was such a little devious little thing because I was supposed to be sleeping and I was reading. The next book I have to talk about is a picture book, and I don't know why, but I was obsessed with this when I was younger, and it's called Pippa Mouse's House. I can still tell you what happens in it. Pippa Mouse's house follows a mouse called Pippa. She wants her mom to tell her a story, and her mom's like, okay, I'll tell you a story, but after you do your chores. And it's just her like doing a chore and then being like, Mom, can you read me a story now? And she's like, no, you have to do this now. I don't know why, but I remember it so vividly and I loved it. The next one is called Worst Enemies / Best Friends. This is the first book in a series called The Beacon Street Girls. All I remember about this book is that there was a new girl and she like becomes friends with these girls, but then she's like enemies with like one of the girls in the friendship group, and so it causes lots of tension. And I think they were obsessed with Gone with the Wind. I remember reading a book where some of the characters were just obsessed with Gone with the Wind, and I think it was this book. And I don't remember anything else. I just remember loving it. The next one is Ali Finkel's Rules for Girls, book number 1, Moving Day, by Meg Cabot. We went to North Carolina. For some reason, we went to North Carolina for a little trip, and I remember reading this book in the car, and I remember there was this really creepy house in the place that we were in North Carolina, and we drove past it a couple times, and I was reading this book, and basically in this book, the main character, she moves into a new house, and I remember seeing this creepy house and thinking, oh my god, what if I had to move in there? And I had to write a story for my English class, and I remember writing a short story about having to move in to this really creepy house. I forgot all about it until literally today. Another one, which was very great for getting me into reading, was The Tale of Emily Windsnap. This is a book about mermaids, and I just remember reading it and absolutely loving it, and I was obsessed with mermaids when I was younger, probably because I lived in the Caribbean and I went to the beach a lot, so that probably didn't help with my obsession, but also obviously H2O, Just Add Water, was perfection. So yeah, I remember being obsessed with mermaids, but now like I literally could not tell you the last time I read a mermaid book. Like this might have been the last mermaid book that I read. The next one I have is The English Roses by Madonna, of all people. I remember my best friend at the time was leaving. She was moving away, but she got me a gift to like remember her by, and it was this book, and it basically follows these 4 girls who are friends. They call themselves the English Roses, and then this new girl moves to town, and they're all very jealous of her because she seems to have this perfect life, and then this fairy godmother comes and shows them that her life isn't perfect, and then they all become friends. Spoilers, but they all become friends. And I just remember reading this book so many times, and again, I loved it. It had beautiful illustrations, and it was just 10 out of 10. Now we're getting on to like the top 3 like most influential. So one is Tuck Everlasting. I remember reading my sister's copy of this, I think, or she gave me a copy, I'm not sure, but I remember my sister bringing this book to my attention. I'm pretty sure there's a movie of this, but I've never seen it, but I was obsessed with this book. I can't remember what happens, really. All I know is that it was about the Tuck family, and they lived forever, and I remember like there was this girl, and she was like learning about it. I loved it so much when I was younger. The next one I have is this one. I actually literally, I could not remember the name of it until today. I did some Googling, and I was like, I have no idea what this is called. I searched like children's 2000 goblin book. It didn't even take that long to come up with, and I just saw the cover and I was like, that's it. That is what it is. And it was called Pixie Tricks, and I loved it. I was looking at it on Goodreads earlier, and there are only 8 books in the series, so I don't know how many of them I read, but I remember reading at least 4 of them and loving them. They basically followed like a brother and sister, and then there were always like pixies and fairies and goblins and elves. In each different book, they had to like deal with the fairies or elves or whatever. The fairies and elves and stuff were kind of like villains, and I just remember them being so magical and fun. But the best part about these books was that the copies that I got had stickers in the middle. I've always loved stickers, so that was like the best thing, having stickers in the middle of my book which had pictures of the characters. And I really want to reread one of the books just to see if I can like remember anything, because these were amazing. And the last book that I have on my list is one that is actually still one of my favorite books, probably, and that is Goodnight Mister Tom by Michelle Magorian. First of all, before I continue talking about this book, this is one of the books that I brought from the Caribbean to England, and I had a beautiful copy. I mean, it was a bit damaged because obviously I read it when I was a child and I didn't take care of my books, but it was mine, you know? It had my name in it, it had a sticker in it, but I lent it out to a friend who then lent it to a friend, and one of them lost it. And I was just thinking about this the other day, and I got so sad because I was like, that's like one of my prized childhood possessions which they lost, and I'll never see it again. And it's so sad. And I bought a used copy, and it's not the same cover. And so I see this and it doesn't remind me of the love that I had for this book. I just see this and I'm like, what is this? But it's still an amazing book. It's about this little boy called Willie, and it's set in World War I, and he's an evacuee from London. And he moves in with this older man called Mr. Tom, and the bond that forms between them is just one of the most beautiful things ever. And I think I read it when I was like 9 years old. I got it for my 9th birthday, and 12 years later, I still think about this book. Anyway, so those are all of the books that I have to talk about. Please let me know if you've read any of these ones. I'd love to know. Let me know your favorite childhood books down below. I definitely didn't mention all of the ones I remember, but yeah, this was so fun for me. I love looking back on things. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. Don't forget to check out Elena and Mel's videos. They'll be in the description. And I will see you very soon with another one. Bye!